Nobody ever calls me to discuss financial matters. And I understand why.
Right.
The one thing I'm committed to, whether I'm rich or poor, I'll be a rich or poor happy person. Now, with the gift of retrospect, I realized that my mom was not a very good financial manager. We suffered when we had money, we suffered when we didn't have money. And when we were living in this house, this two-room house,
right?
Yeah, and the landlord, I remember him coming, and one thing, I don't know why he would do this. You're like, "Na hii nyumba bado hamujalipia," and then he'd take a chalk and write how much you owe on your door.
Oh no!
And as a kid, I remember it was 3,600. I was like, "Mom, how can we not have
3,600?
3,600?" But also, what that did for me is that it taught me how to survive.
First of all, what was your experience of being carjacked?
Crazy. I just got into a mat. So we were going to Ruaka, and once we got to Muthaiga, the guys just chomoed guns. When COVID happened, literally, all my sources of income dried up at once because I didn't realize until that point that for Jason to make money, people had to gather. So that's how I got into beekeeping. I realized people are not poor because they choose to be poor. It's just circumstances that force them to be like that. Be willing to go through the tough times because tough times will teach you great lessons. So I guess loss taught me far more lessons than any success I've ever had has ever taught me.
Okay.
You learn a lot more from your failures.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Financially Incorrect. And of course, if you want to learn about trading, want to know anything about trading, you want a door or a gateway to the global markets, FXpress is the perfect partner for you. They have a fantastic application that you can use. All the links in the description box for you to be able to download. Remember, they have a Karibu bonus. They also have a bonus where if you do recommend FXpress to someone else, you would be able to get some money from that as well, which would go directly into your account and you can use that for trading. And yeah, they're all around good guys. I mean, they've given us Financially Incorrect for 2 years. So yeah, help them, support them, I guess, as we say. So with me today, I have a fantastic story I want to bring to you. I have a feeling it like bobs and weaves and goes through many different career and passion. And anyway, so with me, I have none other than Jason Runo, a.k.a. El Nyuki, who doesn't live in Nairobi anymore. And I cannot wait to hear about that experience. But he is the bee whisperer. He's a honey sommelier. He's a global apiculture advocate. And he's the founder and executive producer of BYSS, which is probably the longest running improv comedy show that we have in Kenya at the moment. Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Thank you, man. I have to say, I was so surprised when I got the call from your team for me to come to be a guest on Financially Incorrect. Nobody ever calls me to discuss financial matters. And I understand why.
Right. I don't know. As I've read out your career, and this is not even covering, if I'm not wrong, you had worked in the airspace as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you think about all those different careers, I mean, you must have a lot to say about money in one way or another. Across such a vast scope. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason to have you here, essentially.
Thank you.
And I mean, if BYSS would probably stand alone on its own, then you put the honey element and the bee element to it, that's probably alone on its own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you probably have a lot of things to say.
You're good for my ego, my guy.
Anyway, and then even relocating and moving to you're in Kilifi.
In Kilifi,
yes, you're in Kilifi. I mean, that as well, again, from a money perspective, is really interesting to figure out. A lot of people, I mean, when Poji was on the podcast as well, he said, when you take, and he was referencing Major, when you take a step out of the Nairobi circle, the value of your money goes up immediately, and
100%.
Your life quality also goes up.
100%.
So I think there's a lot to discuss there as well.
100%.
Right? Anyway, so to start off, my left field question for the day today is, this is based off of some stuff I was listening to this week, earlier this week. How much time in a day do you spend thinking? And by thinking, I mean like taking time to actually think and not just have your life in autopilot and do the things that you need to do. And by autopilot here, I mean, you wake up, whether you have a workout or whatever it is that you do, then you get to work and just get things going.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend consciously thinking?
Wow, that's like a very intense way to start this episode. But I'll say this. I'm a very big person on meditation. So I don't know if you'd consider that thinking. It's not necessarily thinking. It's just being in the moment, being in the present moment. Just most people think meditation as a thing of like try to clear your mind of thoughts. That can never happen. Your mind will always exist with thoughts, but what I try to do is like just observe them same way like you'd observe clouds. They just come and go, come and go. Sometimes I get good ideas, sometimes, So it's just acknowledging different thoughts. So it's just also a lot of spending good quality time with myself. So I try to meditate every day. I've been a practicing Buddhist for the last over 12 years. Some of my best friends are monks. So it's been quite a journey. So I value so much alone time, just quiet time, just me spending time with me.
Yeah.
It's a very important part of my day.
Okay. I think for the purposes of the question, I'd say, yeah, I think it qualifies. Sorry, because what I'm trying to get at, or for me, what was like a realization was, I think I don't think I spent a lot of time consciously thinking about what I was doing. I think I just did, what I was doing. If it's a project, if it's work, you just get it done. But did I actually spend time thinking about what I want to do and why I want to do it in a particular way and really, go through that? I realized I didn't. And so it's been an interesting element. But a few questions for you, I guess, through the meditation and the Buddhism and the monks.
Yeah.
What do you think it's done for your life?
I think it's made me, one, be more present. Two, it's really changed the relationship I have with my thoughts. Yeah, a thought is just a thought. How you react to thoughts is what really counts. So sometimes, even when I'm struggling with failure, which I think every human being does at some point, it's not from a point of anger, or it's always from a point of what could I have done differently? What lessons can I learn from this? Because also what I realize is in life, we come with absolutely nothing. And it's really true. We come with absolutely nothing. So long as you're alive and you own even one piece of a garment, you're on the positive side of life. You have more than you came with. So I always try to keep a positive attitude. I try to learn as much as I can from my mistakes. I now fully understand that life happens in cycles, that there are times that you will have, there are times that you will not have. So I spend less time trying to protect myself from eventualities. What I try to do is to build a mental fortitude to take me through both good and bad times.
Yeah.
Because I'm 100% aware, now more than ever, that so long as anything is happening to another human being, it can happen to you. So I don't spend a lot of time trying to protect myself from, I cannot be poor. You can't be poor. But the one thing I'm committed to, whether I'm rich or poor, I'll be a rich or poor happy person. Yeah, that's like my main goal.
Okay.
To be peaceful and to be happy regardless of where I'm at in life. Yeah.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that an element of the Buddhism that you practice is contributing to what your philosophy is now around happiness and your self-awareness, right?
Without sounding like I'm trying to convert anybody
yes,
or to
yes,
preach
without trying
anybody.
to advocate for
that's
it.
never the...
Yes, because
the one thing that Buddhism has taught me is acceptance is key in life. Yeah, you must accept. A lot of times we struggle because we're in situations that we refuse to accept. So acceptance is key. And the other thing I fully understand, which is a Buddhism principle, is that attachment is a cause of all suffering. Whether it's attachment to things, attachments to feelings, attachments to people, and also love is not attachment. So I try to do things without a sense of attachment. So for example, I just moved to Kilifi. Will it work out? Possibly. Could it fail? Possibly. I mean, it's an honest reality that it could work out or fail. But how I look at it is this way. If it doesn't work out, there's no failure. There's just lessons. So what I'll have had if this Kilifi experience doesn't work is, one, a lesson that maybe I need to learn in this point in life. Two, I'll have had an extended holiday.
Right.
So there's no failure.
Right.
So I'll always just bounce back.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I don't want, again, this I'm asking for my own curiosity. I don't want to turn
Okay.
this into a religious podcast.
Yeah.
But did you practice any other faith before? Because you said you've been practicing Buddhism for 12 years now.
Yeah.
Did you practice any other faith before that?
So just for context.
Yes.
For context, I grew up with a single mom. My late mom was a big influence in my life. And at some point in my life, like, for example, I grew up here in Westlands. And I remember maybe I was about 6, 7. But my mom, we didn't have an attachment to one particular church. You know what I mean? Like, depending on what time we woke up on Sunday, we would go to the church that...
that was...
So it was either St. Mark's or St. Andrew's. But then with time, we just stopped going to church totally and completely. And then as a teenager, at the age of 16 or 15, I found myself in a Pentecostal church, which was home for me. I mean, this was not because of my parents. I took myself. And I lived that Pentecostal fire-spitting life until maybe I was 20, which was a great thing for me then, because that's why I started my MC journey. That's why I discovered I have the talent, theater talent. Introduced me to very vast, types of people. We had rich kids in our church. I mean, and then there was some of us who were struggling. So I just understood. But we were all like, it was a nice time in my life. So I went through the Pentecostal fire spitting and all that, which was great for then. Then after that, I found myself in school in South Africa, and we had like a Bible study group with my housemates. And in the Bible study group,
like you were that deep.
I was so deep. Like the first thing I looked for when I got to Cape Town was
a Bible study.
Was a Bible study group. But even at the Bible study group, guys were coming with beer. I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Hold up. I'm like, Jason, would you like a beer? I'm like, what? This is Bible study? So now that was the beginning of a journey into understanding that everybody lives differently and everybody has a point. Everybody truly does have a point. And then shortly after that, I found myself in the airline, where now I was traveling the world, getting to meet people from very diverse religious background. I remember once meeting a guy on board who was a chairman of the Voodoo Association of I don't know what in Benin. I'm like, whoa. But also at the same time, I'd visit like Buddhist monks in Thailand, and I'd be like, this is also so nice. So for me, how people worship is not an issue for me. My friends will tell you I walk into mosques, I walk into churches. One day I actually woke up and I called my friend. I was like, bro, I've never been to an SDA church. I'd love to just come and experience. So I believe everybody has a point. And if your religion preaches that we're right and they're wrong, you're probably in the wrong faith.
Okay, that's
because I mean, 8 billion of us can't all believe and believe the same thing, but there's the basics of humanity, and I'm always a big proponent of humanity over philosophy. If I can't help you because you have another religion, if I'm okay with you suffering because you believe in something else, then that's a big problem.
Interesting.
So humanity over philosophy.
So basically your experience through, I guess, these different things and your career is what sort of just led you to, I guess, Buddhism.
And I remember having so it took me a long time before I decided this is what I want to do. I used to go to the temple without any, like, just because it was, I mean, so the difference with Pentecostal church and what you get in the temple is very different, because in Pentecostal church, it's fire. It's right. And then in temple, it's just silence. It's just, you sit there with your thoughts, and it's just, it's just a lot of silence, and you learn to be okay with your thoughts. You learn to be okay with being in the moment. And even when I talked to my mom about it, I was like, oh, Mom, I've been going to the temple. She was like, do you like it? Does it make sense for you? I was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, if it makes sense for you, it's okay. And that's one of the things I love most about my mom, is that she never, ever... My mom actually let me discover things for myself. She let me make the mistakes in life. But the one thing we always discussed is choices and consequences. So like through high school, I don't ever remember my mom asking me for my report form.
Not once.
My mom would ask me, what do you want to do? And I'd be like, oh, maybe I'd go to Daystar, maybe I'll go to this university. And she'd be like, what grades do you need? I'd be like, I think they need a B- or a C+. She's like, then get those grades. Yeah, because I don't know anybody. I don't have any connections.
Yeah.
But if you get the grades, I'll try and make
Make
things
it work.
make it work for you. But you have to choose what you want. You have to choose what you want and be willing to put in the work for what you want.
Yeah.
So it was always the same thing. Even like when I was, so before I joined the airline, I had this amazing marketing job at 23. I was a marketing manager. I don't know if you remember New Metro Cinemas.
Yes.
Yeah, currently at they opened the Junction.
Yes.
Then we were at Village Market. I was heavily involved in the opening of the not Westgate. Westgate I outside living, but Junction and Prestige Plaza. So it was, at 22, 23, you have a really nice marketing job, and then this opportunity to become a flight attendant came. And, my mom was always a reasonable sounding board. When I talked to her about it, she just told me, here's the thing. If you go and become a cabin crew, you will have definitely committed career suicide. The world will always look at it like you gave up a really good job to become a waiter. But here's the thing. You also get the opportunity to travel the world, which is also school on its own. So she told me, make your decision, but if the travel is important for you, then go for it. If career is important for you, then go for that. So you decide what's important to you, and then go for it. And I chose to go for the cabin crew job, which again took me to places I don't think I'd have ever gone. Even if I had all the money in the world, like what would I be going to look for in Benin or Cotonou? Cotonou is in Benin, or Douala. So I visited places that I don't think I'd have ever gone otherwise.
Yes.
And have shaped heavily the person I've become today. So even my friends really are amazed every time like we meet a foreigner, and I'm like, oh, I know the market in your hood, and they're like, yo, you really know everybody's hood.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So that again was like an amazing experience. Right now in business, I would rather employ a person who's well traveled than a person who's well educated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
First of all, that decision that I guess that when you talk about going to use your mama as a sounding board, it sounds a little bit like, I don't know if you watched Troy, the original one. I hear it's a remake that's being done right now, which I'm not a fan of. But the original one, where Achilles is going to his mom and they're just about to go to war, and he's talking to his mom and he's asking her, should I go to war? Because it's not his war, he's not involved. And so his mom tells him, if you go to war, if you go to the war, you will die, but you will have glory, and your glory will live forever, and your name will forever be remembered. If you stay here, you'll find a beautiful woman, you'll get married, and your children remember your name, and your grandchildren remember your name. But after that, it'll sort of whatever. And so like, I guess the decision is yours. You decide which one you want to take. Anyway, that was just like an interesting anecdote I got from the story you were talking about. But so at the beginning, you seem to reference that things were a little tough financially when you were growing up. I don't know if you can give us a bit of clarity there.
Yeah, so I'm honestly, truly a child of Kenya, child of Nairobi. Like, now with the gift of retrospect, I realized that my mom was not a very good financial manager. We suffered when we had money. We suffered when we didn't have money. In the sense that, for example, there was a time people thought we had money and they came and robbed our house. My mom, they broke her hand and whatever. So my mom didn't like to have money, which made her like a monk. My mom was so generous. Even if I gave her $1 million today in a week, she wouldn't have that money.
She would have given it.
Not given up, but she'd like try to sort out all her pals. She'd be like, oh, by the way, Auntie Nani, Hassan is going, my name is Nganga. You're like, Nganga, even, I'm like, Mom, what do you... And it used to annoy me then. But when she passed, I realized it became so clear to me that she was investing heavily. I don't also think she realized this. She invested heavily in community. And her community came through for her. Yeah, I didn't realize this, but my mom had an army of a community around her. Beautiful relationships with women, people who showed up for her, who showed up for me. This also became evident when COVID struck and I had to move to Nyahururu. The community that she had built, once they knew her son is here. I swear I was well taken care of. They built me a house. All this was just investments that my mom had made into her community. But when you talk about money, just for context, I grew up in an okay middle class family. We lived, from what I can remember, we lived in Westlands. Before then, we were in Buru. And then we moved to Gumba. Like I moved, then that's why I said I'm a child of Nairobi, I'm a child of Kenya. I fit in with middle class kids. I fit in with, kids from the other side. It's because I've had experiences. I've lived in a nice, typical middle class apartment, but I've also lived in a we've also lived in a 2-roomed house, just 2 rooms. My mom would take the other room, and me and my bro are in this room, which is also the sitting room, which is also the kitchen. Those ploties that have shared toilets that you have to go downstairs to chota water. So I've had, fluctuating.
Maybe to give us a bit of extreme context, what's the saddest, and I've asked a couple of guesses, saddest money memory you have of your childhood and the happiest money memory you've had?
Oh, man, saddest childhood memory, I'd say maybe I was in my teens. And when we were living in this house, this 2-roomed house. Yeah. And the landlord, I remember, he was called Maora. Some guy, he was just a dictator, terrible guy. Hated him whenever he was around. Just for context, he never washed the lights until 4 p.m. We didn't have...
like a boarding master.
Yeah, it was like a boarding master. And I remember him coming, and one thing, I don't know why he would do this. You're like, and then he'd take a chalk and write how much you owe on your door.
Oh, no.
And as a kid, I remember it was 3,600. I was like, Mom, how can we not have
3,600?
3,600. But also what that did for me is that it taught me how to survive. I started, selling things here and there. I realized very quickly my mom is not going to provide for me pocket money. So, get into the hustling thing, buying materials to sell. At some point, I was trying to sell alcohol, and this is as a teenager, so that was the worst. I think lowest low is when I realized, we are doing bad. But good memories when my mom had a good job. So for context, my mom was fired. She lost her job unfairly at a very young age now. When I look, because I'm the age she was when she lost her job, which is 44. And she had, I was a teenager then. So literally, when I left, when I was home on holiday, we were in a nice 2-bedroom house with a compound. Yeah. And I come back, we're in a 2-roomed house.
2-roomed, not 2-bedroom.
Not 2-bedroom, 2-room. Yeah, ploti kabisa. So life just flipped all of a sudden. And then after that, we just moved around a lot, a lot. Lived in Ruaka those days when Ruaka was gangster's paradise. I remember times my mom would call me and tell me, don't come home, there's been a shooting. Wow. I've only been jacked once in a mat by carjackers, and that was on the mat on the way to Ruaka. And this is like early 2000s. So I've had but the one thing we always had was good times as a family. Even in the 2-room house, we had very good memories. We had amazing neighbors, some whom, we're still friends to date. I learned the power of sharing. People were very kind. I remember once there were these kids who came to our house, and my mom was like, all these children, and we had kidogo juice. Kidogo, so what she did is that she had to put squash. She had to put a lot of water. Yeah. And then the kids were like,
colored water.
Mama Runo, hii juice yako ni maji. But it was great. It wasn't bad. It wasn't, granted we were squeezed, but I honestly can't say it was bad memories. We actually had very good memories there.
And I'm questioning on the carjacking that you had, and this is because I asked Moriasi this question when he was on this episode. I don't know what first of all, what was your experience of being carjacked? What actually happened?
Crazy. I just got into a mat, but you know what? I didn't realize that there was a pattern. There was one guy. Per bench, there was one guy just there looking like. So we were going to Ruaka, and once we got to Muthaiga, the guys just chomoed guns, and they were like told the driver, take this direction, and we went towards Madare, Nini. And it was a crazy experience, but also it was, quote unquote, is a fun experience because I was sitting next to the guy.
The main guy.
One of the main guys on the first row behind the driver.
Yeah.
At some point, we were like, boys were like, hey, man, kitu ni ya ukweli. It's like he's even he's showing me the bullets, you know. And I'm like, hey, bro, mimi nirudishie tu SIM card yangu.
Yeah, that's all.
You know, we had time. He gave me my SIM card.
Yeah.
You know, it was a crazy experience. But also what that did for me, it left me traumatized. To date, if I can walk, I'd rather walk than take a matatu.
Because of that experience.
So it's like from here in West, if I need to go like to Huduma Center, trust me, I'm legging it.
From here?
Yeah,
I'd rather. This will take you what?
I don't know how long it will take, but yeah, I'd rather leg it. Yeah, I used, like when I was living here, I used to walk a lot. I'd walk Kileleshwa to Junction. I also love to walk. It gives me a lot of time to just think things. Yeah, but matatus for me are just like, they're not bad. They just give me like, I think they take me back then. Talking about it now, maybe it's something I need to talk to somebody about.
And figure it out. Anyway, so the question I think I asked Monias, it was something about what's most valuable in a moment of robbery, right? Is it your life or is it the money? Right? And there was the context, I think there was the context of what's most valuable to, I guess, to whom?
Yeah.
Right? Because to the robber, your money is what's most
valuable,
right? And to you, what's most valuable, I guess, would,
is your life.
Would be your life, you'd think.
There's two things. People say time is money.
Yeah.
And I totally disagree. Time isn't money. Time is life. If you have time, you have life. If you have life, you have time. And as long as you're alive, things can change. Right. Things can, life is the most basic of the requirements you need for anything to happen. You know what I mean? Like, if you have life, anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible. And take it from me. I've been in situations where I've had nothing other than just life, and things have turned for the better.
Right.
So life I also don't have attachment to money. I've invested in things that I've lost money. I've done things that was possibly a hit. I invest a lot in experiences. I invest a lot in my craft, which I think is the best investment anybody can make.
Yeah.
If you invest in your craft, there's one thing, education can open doors, but never like a skill. A skill you're really good at will open the most incredible doors for you.
Yeah. Will
present the most crazy opportunities for you. Case in point, like I've invested heavily in my beekeeping, and just it's opened like the most amazing doors for me. I've traveled to many countries. I've met important people. I've traveled this country just because of investing in the skill. And it's one thing I also try to talk to my kids about. Invest in skills. And I think it's the most important thing you can actually leave your kids is the discipline that comes with skills. Like when a child watches a father or a mother invest in their skills, what you're giving them is far more important than money. You're teaching them discipline. So like, for example, for context, when I talk to my daughter, she's only 6 now, and I tell her, Mom, I'm leaving early tomorrow. And she'd ask me this question, are you leaving early or beekeeping early? Because beekeeping early means I'm leaving at 3-4 a.m. And sometimes I'll take her with me to work. She's an exceptional beekeeper. In fact, at the time the school called me and they were like, oh, please talk to your daughter. She brought bees into class. But you see, it's not like I am intentionally, of course I'm intentionally teaching her, but it's what she sees. It's the discipline that she sees, that me packing my making sure my tools are okay, the gear the night before, me now sitting with her and meditating before going to work, me, her watching that, I think, is far more than, leaving her like 61 billion in the account. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, but if you can combine both, then you have a winning formula.
True. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So back to your story. So we've gotten a glimpse of sort of what your childhood was like, teenagehood was like.
Yeah.
So how do you end up at New Metro marketing manager? Do you go to university? Do you study? Do you get a degree? What's that process like? And what's money in that era?
I have to say, God has always been good to me. God has always been
When you're
super
referencing
kind.
God here,
Yeah.
for my context, I am a Christian. I'm practicing.
Okay.
Christian.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand. When you say God, is it in the sort of wider term of a
In the
higher
wider
being?
term, yeah, God, the universe,
Okay.
life has always been generally kind to me,
All
and
right.
I'm so thankful for that. So what happened is like when I finished my high school, I was called to Daystar to do a diploma in communication arts. And at the time, I couldn't afford it, but I had a rich auntie. Who was like, "Nyanga, how much do you need?" I'm like, this semester is, I can't remember how much it was, but she just wrote a check and told me, go to school. I don't want you roaming around. And the first semester was sorted. And then somehow, then I got a part scholarship in Daystar, and, I was able to just get through. I graduated, and then after that, with a diploma, so now came the opportunity. Now I got invited to go to South Africa to film school to study acting for film. It was a short course. It wasn't like a diploma or anything. It was just like a short course for a year. At the time, I was sure I wanted to work in film. So when I spoke to my mom about it, she was like, you could go to university, finish your degree, which will set you on a very good career path. But you could also follow your dream to become, go to South Africa. I'm sure there's one or two things you will learn there. But honestly, nobody is looking for actors, at least in Kenya. Those days, acting was not like it wasn't like a paying career. It wasn't what it is now.
What it is now, yeah.
And I told Mom, I've never been on a plane. I want to experience another country. I think there'll always be an opportunity to do a degree. So I chose to go to South Africa, which was one of my best experiences. Now in South Africa, I was doing class two days a week.
And so the other 5 days.
The other 5 days, and then I had these housemates who were crazy about surfing.
Who got you on this South Africa program?
So funny thing, I just wrote a letter. I was accepted, and then a friend of my mom, who was out of the country, was like, "Oh, this is so good. You've been invited." So he paid for part of it, sent me some pocket money. My mom, I guess, at the point was paid dividends for something.
There was money,
paid
right?
my ticket and just go. So, it just worked out somehow.
Right.
And I actually left the day after I graduated from Daystar. So when I came back, the first job I got was as a news anchor.
And you were gone for a year?
I was gone for slightly under a year.
Okay.
Slightly under a year.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I think it was the best thing for young me to be exposed to understand that the world is bigger than just Nairobi. The world is bigger than Kenya. People like my housemates, one of my housemates was a photographer, so passionate, and he was being called for jobs and he was making money. I remember telling my uncle once that I want to be a photographer, and then in Cuk he said, so we see you around here with a bicycle. For context, him he only knows that guy who comes on Sunday. I killed that dream.
Put them on.
But I realized, oh wow, people. We had another housemate who was a model. Doing things that in Kenya
hadn't started,
was not paying. People would do it just for passion. I was like, okay, so it opened up my mind in so many ways. But when I came back, ABC happened to be looking for news anchors. And I was selected to be a news anchor, sports, which I have no interest in. I think the one thing I was new mod as a dude was interest in sports. I have no interest whatsoever. Not Formula One, not football. I never know who's on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, now the acting came in handy. I'd be like, today, Manchester United.
Also, it was an act.
Everything
was
that you
an
did
act.
It was just an act.
Right.
I'd get into the studio at 9:10 because I'm waiting for the main news to be Malizwa. Then 9:10, then I'd get my scripts. News items are just like 5. So luckily, even with my diploma in my acting thing, I had 2 jobs. I had my New Metro one during the day and my news anchoring during the
Also, you're
evening.
doing New Metro during the day.
Yeah,
This one.
Yeah. And then, so how I got the New Metro job was very interesting. So we went to, there used to be a club at Village Market called Sikiliza.
That one is
it's old school. This is old school. Was it Sikiliza or Skiza? One of the two. Sikiliza. So one day we're just partying, and then this guy. So I just come back from SA, and I don't know how we found myself at Village Market, and we're having this party, and it's happening. And these guys asked us, can we share your table? And we were sharing the table. And then as we were discussing, just banter.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, so what are you up to? I just come back from film school in SA, Turns out those guys are the owners of village markets. So we exchange numbers, and the next day they come in like, wait, we need a marketing person for our cinema.
Right.
Yeah, can you come? There's a guy who's coming from SA, some Zungu guy. Please just have a coffee with him. Just talk. So we talked about film school, talked about acting, and the next thing I was like, come to work. So I never wrote my CV. I never applied.
Or
literally, I was just given the job.
Wow. Okay.
So clubbing is not all bad.
This is the summary of this story.
Yeah. So I really thank God for till today. I have a very special place in my heart for Village Market.
Yeah.
Kina Shamim, Human, and the Sani family they were kind to us. It was nice. So my friend, Amani Maranga, got the job as the entertainment manager for the Village Market. And I got, I guess because of film, I got the job to be the manager for the New Metro Cinemas.
Right, okay.
And that's the time they were expanding. That's the time now I got exposed to corporate email.
Right.
That's the time I got exposed to meetings, people talking big cash, projects.
Right.
Sound guys are coming from SA to fix the cinema. Yeah, so it was so that's how I got into that job.
So around that time when you're balancing these two jobs, the moonlighting as a sports anchor and then New Metro marketing manager, how much are you making at that time? Can you remember?
It wasn't much. I mean, my salary at VM was probably like, if I'm not wrong, it was like 40 G's. And then at KBC, I think because we'd be paid per bulletin.
Per bulletin.
Yeah.
So if you come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you get more money.
So every month a roster comes out. And immediately the roster comes out, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're like, okay. So it just comes to maybe about 15K, 17K on a good month. Yeah. And then also the main anchors were paid more.
Right.
Just like a sports guy.
Right.
Yeah, so we were there with people like Inateri and Chebet, Kanzedena, Monica Kiragu, who is now like a news director at Citizen. So it was a really, really good experience.
Right.
But before then, I'd worked before. My rich auntie was building apartments.
So you had done
I had done mjengo work. My job was in charge of the store. It was a scary job, you guys. You're telling a guy who has like a 6-pack. Yeah. You can see through he's telling you, leo siwezi kulipa because ujarudisha jembe. Like, nini wewe? So yangu lazima utalipa. I did that job for like a day. I was like, I can't do this. Yeah. And kukaa kwa mjengo is hard work. Yeah. So that one paid me 5K, I think, for the month.
Yeah, or whatever it was.
So I was just running.
So do you remember, so at this period where I guess you're doing this formal employment, do you remember what you're doing with your money at all? Have you moved out from home? Are you still at home?
It was just sherehe, my guy. So me and Amani had moved. So when I came back from SA, transiting from Nairobi to Ruaka those days was shags.
Yeah, it was far.
It was far. So I was staying with Kinamani, with his mom and their famo. They were gracious enough. Till today, I have a very soft spot for that family. So when we both got jobs, we just got an apartment we got a house in Langata and we just picked it from there. And it's honestly, there was no one's money.
Yeah.
It was like, how much do you have? You've been paid, eh? Yeah. So you have I have 40. Okay, so we used to pick a sherehe every day, karaoke every day. Like every Tuesday we had karaoke.
Yeah.
But it was
fun.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
How long do you do this for before the flying, the hosting thing comes?
I think it was like, I'd say maybe a year. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, because I joined KQ in 2005.
Okay.
April 2005, I remember.
How does that opportunity, it seems like opportunity comes to you in interesting ways. How did this one come?
Funniest story ever. So at some point, this New Metro guys employ a senior manager from SA. These Afrikaner guys with very strong accent. And the guy was just an asshole. He really was. He talked to us rudely. He was just... So one day I'm in the office and I see this advert in the Gazette. I'm like, cabin crew wanted. I'm like, oh, okay. I just printed my CV. I swear, and I kid you not, I took a full scalp with a biro, wrote my cover letter, went and posted it. And then one day he just ongeleshed me vibaya, and I happened to get the job offer that day, and I told him, dude, I'm
done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. So that's how I went to KQ. Did first interview, second interview, then I was called for training. And I mean, in retrospect, I always wanted to work for an airline. I had, at some point, I know I had dreams of becoming a pilot, but math and physics taught otherwise. But just being in the industry was always something I admired. I remember I had also applied at some point for Emirates. We did the interviews here at Grand Regency, Lyco now, but I didn't get the job. But now later, KQ happened, so
you got that one.
Yeah, I got
what do they look for when I guess people are getting cabin crew? What do they look for?
That's a very interesting question, because
I want to ask that from both a male perspective and a female perspective.
Yeah, but KQ, it was interesting because we were so different. I would say, of course, there's a minimum height requirement. But the height requirement is mostly because of the bins. But also we had short guys. There was a guy who had been there for many years. We used to call him Dexter. So we used to make fun of him. Dexter was so funny. So in the hotel checkout, all you'd see is his hand. It's like, so the guy would be like, oh, you have 34 euros to pay. He's like, no. And then we used to make fun of him. Like, he'd ask you, madam, would you like, that's how I used to talk. Late, Mazi, he's a late, so may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Would you like chicken or beef? And then I'll have a chicken. And then he'd walk into the trolley.
Like he was a small guy.
Yeah, we used to make fun of him, but he was a cool guy. And then so they were very diverse. So I honestly can't. Some airlines are very particular about what they're looking for in terms of height, in terms of. But I'll definitely say if you speak a language, then it's an added advantage. And I also learned the importance
of an
extra language. Right. If you're speaking like French, Spanish, Arabic, all those languages come as a huge advantage. Yeah, and also when you travel, you realize how language is just the shortest distance between two people.
If you can connect, it makes it really
when we started
easy.
the China flights, my guy, it was headache. So what we would do, this was so funny, we'd give people the meal choice that's not moving.
Right.
We're like, chicken or beef, ha 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 ha. And then you get the guy at the back, and the guy gets the chicken, and he tells his guys, oh. The next thing you're seeing, everybody in the plane is trying to change. You're like, oh. But yeah, so you also learn how to, and that's the thing about travel, it teaches you how to. So one thing I discovered very quickly is that if you draw the food, so I'd take a card and just draw a cow and a chicken.
Right.
Yeah, so I'd just be like, and then also now you get, nyulo. And then no, nyulo is beef. Piju, piju is a beer, so you start picking things. So some people thought I could speak French because I guess also now my acting skills came into play because I could do the French announcements and sound like a French person. So I'm like, tukona just on kwa flight. Tukona French speak. I'm like, I don't speak French. I just know how to do the announcement.
Right.
And I also have that gift of I pick languages really, really fast. I spent 3 weeks in backpacking in some time in South America, and I could already understand and express myself in Portuguese.
Interesting.
So yeah.
I am alarmed. Maybe the word is not alarmed, but I am intrigued by. I would assume that the airline would put you through some sort of language. I mean, if you're studying a new route or whatever the case is, that they would, especially if it's a different language altogether, that they would put you through some sort of training to ensure that you can communicate with the passengers. It's not.
They would put you through some form of training, but it wasn't necessarily for the language. Sometimes it was more about the culture.
Okay.
You understand? Okay. One thing I know about the Chinese, if you ever get a chance to do business with a Chinese or a Japanese, this is also just from interacting with them. You never hand over your business card, say, with one hand like this. For them, it's very rude. You have to, for example, if you're doing business with a Japanese person, you have to hand the card facing him. So basically, he can read the details and with both hands. So something like that. So
things like those.
Just soft things. Like if you hand over a business card like this, that's very disrespectful and you may not get that deal. Yeah, so just things like those. But a lot of it would learn on the job. So when I was serving food to a Japanese or Chinese customer, I wouldn't just place the tray. You know, I would make sure hand it to them, facing them, you know, and they'd be deeply appreciative of that. Okay. So you get to pick these things with time. But so when we started, like, for example, when KQ started the route to Paris, one of the requirements was each flight would have a French speaker. So sometimes I'd find myself on those flights as a French speaker.
Because you can do the announcement.
Yeah, but I mean, I also pushed myself. I'd listen to a lot of French music, and then I'd call my friends and ask, "Oh, but then what does this mean?" So so I mean, if I was serious by now, I would fluently be speaking French.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the what airlines look for, level of attractiveness of an individual vis-a-vis them getting that job. What are your thoughts?
You know, the misconception is that cabin crew are there for aesthetics and all that.
Yes, like eye candy of some sort.
No, I mean, some airlines maybe might insist on that, but the primary duty of cabin crew is safety. In fact, the service is secondary. And even if there was no service on board, you would still have cabin crew on board. Of late, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's almost crashes every weekend, every week.
Yes, over the last like
the last
3
couple
weeks,
of months, even, like, you know, you saw what happened in Korea, what happened in Stato. So the role, in fact, the thing that now we are pushed all the time was safety. So before a flight, you have to brief. Every year you go for training and you sit exams. You have to know, like, first aid, like, you know, like this. I'm talking about first aid. I'll tell you a story about a Luo doctor who was on board once.
Yes.
It's the funniest story ever. But yeah, you know, things like it was more for safety. It was always safety. Then the service is secondary. So you find some airlines will invest heavily in the safety, which is a requirement by law. But then service, not so much. But you find then there are these exceptional airlines like Qatar, Etihad, who have invested heavily in both safety and service,
the aesthetics,
which now what makes them the airlines that they are today.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess so what's my possible understanding of it's primarily safety, and then I guess the aesthetics is like an add-on, and some people insist on it, and other people not so much.
Don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was because we've had a pilot on here who's talked to us about payment skills from a pilot perspective, from a cabin crew perspective. What are the payment skills that exist in where do you guys make your money and how?
So that's a very good question. And I think at the time, I don't know what it's like now. KQ was a terrible employer, if you ask me. From my personal experience, they were always fighting the crew. They were always, you know, other airlines would be paying certain allowances. KQ would look at it like they're doing you a favor, you know. But the basic salary was very kidogo. Very kidogo. I'm talking 18K.
18K.
When
basic,
I joined. Yeah,
basic salary.
But take home, you'd easily take home about 120, 150. So what happens that you're paid allowances per night out. If you, at the time, I think it was $70 a night, which sounds like a lot of money now. But when you're in the UK, you know, and the company is only providing you breakfast, even just taking a taxi from here to where is like, I don't know how many pounds. If you're buying a meal easily is 12, 13, 14 pounds.
Yes.
So it's not much. And that would be paid at the end of the month with your salary.
So you have to, whatever it be.
So you have to factor in like, this month I'm in China for 2 weeks, I'm in this and this, you know. So what a lot of people would do is to supplement their income by trying to do some sort of business. But the salary, there's the basic salary. So when you go on leave, what you get is just the 18K because now you're not earning allowances. Yeah, which made life very hard to panga. Because mother, you'll go from 150 and then you're put on leave for 2 months, then you're 18K, you know. So, but also something that I really mastered, that I became really good at was sales. Duty-free sales. We used to make commissions on that.
You made commissions on duty-free sales. Okay.
And duty-free would easily pay my rent. So, I mean, that's why I'd make sure the duty-free announcement was really good. I'd really get to talk. You know, the one thing about business, people buy from people they like. I'm not saying you jipendekeza or try to be fake about it, but if you just show some interest in somebody's life,
and more likely to buy that watch or that thing I'm thinking twice about.
Exactly. You know, rather than coming to you saying, duty free, if I come to you and I say, Barack, because I remember your name because I met you at the door and, we had a bit of a conversation. I'm like, Barack, is there anyone you'd like to buy anything for? Or Barack, have you had time to look at the duty free? And, you find, oh, yeah, actually, let me. So be like, then now you'd ask for recommendations. What can I buy for my mom? And then I'd ask you about her. What kind of person is she? She likes this. She goes for weddings all the time. Like, oh, okay. Then I have a flowery scent that I would recommend. It's nice. It's a mature scent. Then you'd find you'd sell to 5 people, but you'd make big sales. Rather than trying to sell to the whole aircraft, and $20, I'd rather sell to 5 people who will spend $1,000, $2,000 each.
Were there specific things that or tales that you'd look for, like as people are walking in, to be like, this would be a good person to target? This would be like, what are the things you'd be looking for?
You learn to profile people very quickly. If someone is on the phone talking to a loved one, bye babe, I love you,
like that.
What someone is wearing tells you this person possibly is interested in fashion. The watch they're wearing, talk about their watch, and then like, hey, you know what? I need to show you something. Sometimes it's not even like you're trying to sell. It's just that I know, Barack, you're interested in watches. So what I'll do is I'll bring it's not even duty-free time. And I'd give you the most expensive watch and I'll tell you, you can look at it, but just don't open. I'll come back and pick. And the next thing, naturally, you'll have questions. Hey, tell me about this timepiece. I thought you'd never ask. And the guy will be like, oh, wow, I really like this. Yeah, so it's a skill you learn. Sales is easy. Sales is easy. It's an easy thing to do, but the thing you need to do is to listen. And listening is not just this, it's also observing. It's also observing. Maybe, sometimes somebody comes and they're sad. You just getting to know like what has happened. Maybe they'll tell you, oh, I know, I just broke up, maybe this would make you feel better. There's always opportunities to sell. And I became really good at it. I represented KQ. So we usually have these competitions where in East Africa, we compete against East African Airlines. So this is about merchandising and, how you're able to know the sense and just that sales language. And then you go to South Africa, compete against African Airlines. I won that. Then now we went to London where we compete against airlines of the world. So we had people from the Caribbean.
And essentially, whoever is making the most sales wins. Are they judging your ability, your technical ability?
To sell.
Okay.
Your ability to sell, your ability to describe scents, your ability to describe a timepiece, your ability to relate the products that you have on the duty-free catalog with the destination. Say, for example, if it's a flight from Nairobi to Kilimanjaro, I'd put more of the outdoor stuff. You know? Yeah, you have like the torch, the charger, solar charger, things that are
like those outdoorsy watches.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Exactly.
So it's about how you merchandise your stuff. So and then also how you custom make your announcements. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. In a short while, I'll be rolling through the cabin with the duty-free items. Please feel free to look through. And for those of you who are possibly going to attempt the biggest challenge of your life to get to the roof of Africa, I have interesting products for you. You see, that's a very targeted announcement.
And you guys as cabin crew have the leeway to customize the duty-free.
I used to customize my announcements. And what I found is that people react, because the usual ones are boring. So like, for example, I'd say, I love doing announcements. I guess also from my KBC days, I loved doing announcements. So like I'd say, rather than having just the normal announcement, please check the seat pocket in front of you, I'd say, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure if you choose to forget anything, make sure it's something valuable. Leave us like an iPad, like leave me something I'll enjoy to use. And when you say that, you find all of a sudden everybody's checking. It minimizes your work, because also when someone forgets something, now it becomes
figure out.
The cabin crew has to wait to hand over to security. Ladies and gentlemen, for the smokers on board, if you need to smoke, you can smoke outside. Okay,
interesting.
So I'd always make the announcements fun, and I always believe in enjoying work. Enjoying what you do is very key for me.
Okay. Yeah. Does the remuneration change over time? How many years were you?
I was in the airline for 8 years.
8 years.
And you get increments, but like I said, we were always fighting with the management. The CEO at the time was not a good CEO. I ended up, after winning the London contest or whatever, then after that I was retrenched. And then, this guy,
I'm sorry for laughing.
I know, it's laughable. It's laughable. So I was like, maze, huku ni wapi? Maze, imagine. And it was literally, I think it was in a few months, and I had never, ever
had an issue or anything.
Ever had an issue with the company. It's only once, like, there was a manager. So for context, we were very few crew at the time, and there was very heavy crew shortage. So we never used to go on leave, which is possible in an airline because, the job is not like an office job where you report every day. I'd maybe come back from London today. I have 3 days off. And then my next flight is at midnight. So you see, I feel like I have 4 days. So if you don't go on leave in a year, you don't feel like you've not gone on leave. So we'd go 3-4 years without leave. And I had this thing I really wanted to attempt. I wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So I told my manager, I asked for leave in January, and I reminded him every month. It's
coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
And actually I lied. I said, because I know if I told them Kilimanjaro, they won't give me leave.
Yes.
So I told them I have a family function without specifying. I have a family function that I must attend in July. And when I kept writing, and then when the roster for July came out,
you are there.
I was just full of flights. So I wrote to the manager. I was like, dude, I've been talking to you about my situation and I need leave. Can I and I've quote verbatim, he said, leave is a request, it can be denied.
What?
So in my anger, in that moment of anger, I forwarded this to the HR director and I was like, please confirm leave is a favor, with a thread of all the emails I've been writing, and I was put on leave from that day. So I think since that day, that guy worked me wanted. So there was once we had a stupid incident. It even had nothing to do with. I don't even think I can't even remember. That's how inconsequential it was. But that guy was so quick to give me a warning letter, which I'd never gotten in the 8 years that I was there. So I guess also it was just time.
Yeah.
When the time for something comes. So when the retrenchment list came out, I was like top 10.
Home.
Can go home.
My gosh.
We don't care how much money you've made us, know. So, and from that experience, I vowed I never want to be employed again. Even though before then, I had never seen myself as someone who's self-employed. I always knew I'd be employed.
Interesting.
So that experience, that traumatic experience changed that
for you as well. Same as the matatus had happened before.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So what were your percentages on the commissions that you guys would make? And what's if you can remember, because I know it'd probably be a pedantic detail. What's the largest commission you ever made in a month, if you can remember?
I think I would easily make 40K easily. So in total, the commission is split two-way between the person in charge, the purser. So the purser is like the captain of the cabin crew.
Okay.
The person in charge of the cabin is called the purser. Then there's a senior most in economy. Then now the assistant of the senior most is the one who does the duty-free. So it's a very specific person who does the duty-free role. So the purser would get so in total,
the commission is split
10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so sorry. So the commission is split across the whole
two or three people.
So, but if you're not, do you have to be in good standing to be able to get the duty-free role? Sometimes
yes, but sometimes there are people some people just didn't like to do it. So in a flight, you'd tell the purser, depending on like, Leon is a duty-free, I'd be like, okay, sorry. And then there were specific flights which you didn't get you didn't get to spend a night, but the duty-free sales were crazy. Like Angola, they would be short of just actually buying the trolley.
Like
Luanda flights,
yes,
they would buy everything easily. That flight would make sales of $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 easily, without even trying, with minimal effort.
Yeah,
and then when you get on ground, even the guys who work on ground, they want to come on board to buy.
Wow!
So I would rather have an Angola flight than have like an Amsterdam flight. Yeah, which I'll be there for a night. Amsterdam people never use. The only thing they would buy is like the pack of cigarettes, which is $20. So I'd rather do the Angola one, which I'll go and come back home, but I'll have made more money than going to Amsterdam.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever do the thing? Because I know a couple of people in the cabin crew who they'll buy duty-free stuff and then come and try and sell here or stuff like that. Yeah, of course. That was also standard.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was something I tried to do, but I mean, you know, sometimes it's just, I guess it's a Nairobi thing. We have the pressure to feel like you're doing biashara.
Yes. You have a side hustle.
Yeah, you have to have a side hustle. It's just pressure. I don't think, I was not serious about it. I don't even think like, I can't even tell you like if I made like
proper money from
it. But
Nice.
I remember I used to love timepieces a lot. So like when I was in places like Dubai, I'd buy like one timepiece or two. And that would make me some good money. You know, like you're making like an extra, say, 10K. Because you're looking for very specific people who you're targeting. I used to find that better than having to deal with KRA at the airport, open your bag.
Why do you have so many things?
Why do you have 100 shots? You know, a watch I can put in my pocket and I'll still make the 10K, you know? So, so there was a time I was really interested in timepieces and I'd actually now buy a piece or two and then now come and retail.
Interesting. So, so I guess we finished that phase of your life. And in those 8 years, is that when you develop your financial discipline or your financial philosophy?
What?
Or what's happening? What's happening in
What
those
is financial
8 years
discipline?
with your money at that time?
You know, the thing about a cabin crew job, even without money, you can survive. Yeah, so I wasn't a good money manager. Not at all. Because think about it, you're fed at work. Like
you're forever out of...
Yeah, I'm in a hotel. So if I have $10, I can survive for the day. All I need is another extra meal for the day. If things are bad, I would request for local flights. Because local flights mean I'll just go fly to Dar es Salaam and come back. But between here and Dar es Salaam, I've been given a meal. I'll possibly carry a meal. And then, of course, we used to call uplift. There were a few drinks from the Ndege. I mean, it was illegal, but I mean, there was a time now it became serious and we had to stop doing that. But yeah, you could easily survive. Like I'd carry like a yogurt. So I'd be home. I get home at 4, sleep by 8. The next day, 5 a.m., I'm out again, you know, flight to Entebbe. You have your meal on board. You have your crew meal on board. Yeah, so it's easy to survive without actual money. It's easy to survive without spending your own money.
Yeah. So what did you do with your own money?
Just, you know, so one thing I invested heavily in was experiences. The one thing I had clarity on is that I want to travel. I remember even when we were training, guys would say, "Oh, me, I'm here because I want to make my..." I'm like, no.
You understand?
Me, I'm here to travel. So I spent so much on experiences. At some point, it changed. Now I was spending money on music. I have the most random music collection ever. You know, like I remember there was this store in Paris called Fnac where they would panga music according to countries. You know, and I'd if my salary, I don't think my salary used to last more than a week. No.
Finish it.
No.
On everything you see.
Music, what? And, you know, it was... No, I was there to have fun. So, But I spent so much money on experiences. I remember, like, going to Thailand. I'd go to temples. I'd go visit, you know, just brochure type things, you know, go for a desert safari in Dubai. So, I mean, that's the purpose of that job. And I was clear about it.
That's what you wanted.
Yeah, I didn't care about savings.
Okay.
Yeah. So I invested heavily more in the experiences.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens after you're retrenched now, after those 8 years, when you get that letter, financially, what does it mean for you at that point?
Whoa, you guys, things were tough. But you know what? It was the greatest learning lesson. Very quickly, I understood I never want to be employed. So what I did is now I became Janja. I love flowers. You can see I wear flowering. I love, even before the beekeeping thing, my daughter's name is literally Flowers in Kikuyu. So I've always loved flowers. So when I lost the job, I had my friend, and I've never given him a shout out. His name is James Momisi. So he built me a website, and it was getmaua.com. So what I would do, it was very interesting. I would sit at Java, at the junction. And you know, right next to Java is what? Zucchini.
Yes.
And what does zucchini have?
Lots of
flowers. Yes. So I'd sit Java, maybe having one coffee for 3 hours, and I'd push, you know, getmaua.com, and people would come and order. I had all these other flowers, like say I'd put cactus, even though I don't know where to get a cactus, something like that. And someone would order like, can I get the cactus with the what? I'm like, oh, let me call you back. Let me check our store. And I ran to the kid, mkono cactus. Then I'll come back and make a phone call. Hey, now we don't have that, but I can recommend a mixed bouquet. Mixed bouquet we always had. And that one was always there. So I'd just be there like, and the guy would make me a mixed bouquet. Yeah. Call my Boda guy, he'd come to Junction, pick the flowers, and deliver. And I used to live in Jammu, so that's how I used to make money at the time. And then I realized, it's possible to actually make money. So like days like Valentine's were good. I understood a lot about our culture as Nairobians. Men only buy flowers when they're in trouble. And so, which was interesting because Paul would feel, I don't know why we always feel the need to explain. A guy would call me like, is this Kate Maua? I'm like, yeah. You guy, my girlfriend has just caught me, maze, cheating. Yeah. Can I get like a bouquet? I'm like, you don't have to explain. So I survived doing that for a long time.
Interesting.
And then...
and this is before like e-commerce became real
Yeah, it was before e-commerce became e-commerce, and we used to sell a lot of flowers. Not many. I mean, like in a day, if I sold like three bouquets...
Bouquets, yeah.
I mean, and a bouquet was 2.5. I just made the website look really good. It looked very premium for the time, and 2.5 for a bouquet then was like a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if I get 3 sales, that's 7.5. My rent was like, I think 15 Gs. I have half my rent. And I'm walking to, home is Jammu. So I just walk to my 1-bedroom apartment.
And you're fine.
Yeah. So I think I was just learning to take each day at a time. And then now what that built was the resilience. And also understanding that money can be made. Yeah, money can be made. Money is energy. If you're sharp, you can always make money based on the skills that you have. So I knew I wanted to do more than that. Was more for survival. So I even got it became a thing back. I had a tender to supply flowers at a county.
You won a tender?
Yeah, to supply flowers at a county.
Still with the zucchini flowers, or now you went and found...
Hey, now I had to find Akina Mwangi at City Market.
Right.
But as always, government business is not always good business. They still owe me a lot of money. It wasn't Nairobi County, it was another county.
Yes.
And I used to spend so much money, so much time and effort following up on the money that I'd really questioned, is it worth it? And when that frustration built, I realized I need to think of something. So what I sat down with myself and said, what are the things I'm passionate about? And I always knew I wanted to do acting. I always knew one of my favorite shows was Whose Line Is It Anyway, an improv comedy. So one day I just called Mugash, Mugambi Nthiga, and I was like, yo, dude.
He's supposed to come on this, by the way.
He should.
And I've actually talked to him about it.
He should.
He said he was going to come.
He should.
Mugambi, because I know he'll watch this episode.
Yeah.
I'm calling you after this.
Oh, please let him come. Mugash is like a brilliant guy. So I called him. I was like, oh, dude, I have this idea for an improv show. How about, and I was like, who do you think we should call for this show? Because, now the only reason I reached out to Mugash is because we've been friends for many years since our high school days. We actually met in the Pentecostal church. He was a dancer at St. Andrew's Church, and but those days, churches used to collaborate a lot. So we knew guys of Bapo, we knew guys of Olsay.
And they were very cliquey. I feel like they were very cliquey. Yeah, they were very cliquey,
but it was a very nice camaraderie. Mugashwa, St. Andrews,
Right.
So when I called him, he's like, I think someone like June Gashu would be good. I'm like, and this Apollo I've not seen in a long time. They were my friends. Someone like Yafesi, at some point in my life, we lived in Ngumo. He was a neighbor. And I knew he was brilliant on stage. So I just came up with the names. I called them.
Do you know what about Yafesi? Yafesi is writing the Love and Money
show.
Yeah, he's writing and producing. Writer. He's writing and producing the Love and Money show.
Brilliant writer, actor, director. Yafesi is, I think Kenya is sleeping on Yafesi. Yeah, he's
hopefully Love and Money, makes him more conventional. But anyway,
he's an amazing talent. I have so much respect for him.
Yeah.
And Yafesi has another discipline on our level. If you tell him I need something by midday, like, okay, I'll do it. And by 11:59, whatever you request, you'll have it. And I respect him for that. Yeah. So anyway, we came up with this list of guys. And as soon as I called them, I'm like, hey guys, hey, Patricia, so we have this idea for a show. She said yes. Called Mugash, I was having the coffee with him. Called K1, called all the other cast members. And as soon as they said yes, I didn't. Now the thing with me is that I don't like to overthink ideas. I like to think of them as
if it's good enough.
Kasonge.
Yeah.
So the next thing they saw was a poster with their names on it.
Did you have any commercial discussion with them? At that
No,
point?
nothing. It was just like, I have a brilliant, and also the idea, I think at the time was just a once-off. And from show number one, we saw, and then the poster just said, I think I should send you this poster just for
put it
context.
up, yeah.
Now, because I didn't even ask them for pictures, I didn't ask them for, it was my photo,
Yeah.
but with their names on it. And all it said, it was, because you said so, a night of good laughs.
That's it.
That's it. But I was very intentional about putting it on a Thursday. I know Poji talked about Thursdays.
Yes.
Thursdays are magical. So those days, there was nothing happening on a Thursday. I didn't want to compete with DJs on Friday. You know, weekends was that's a lot happening.
Yes.
So we put the very first show on a Thursday. And for some reason, I don't know, it was just, again, God, the universe,
Yes.
just came through for us.
Where was the first show?
Michael Joseph Center.
Well, the Safaricom let people host things there nowadays.
I don't know, but you know, that time it was...
Let me not say much.
You know,
but I know those days they were very like...
Yeah, they were so open.
Yeah,
I really miss Bob Collymore because he was really pushing for artists.
And
He
the
was,
creative
I think
industry,
he was
yeah.
creative industry. That's when this jazz thing came up. So, oh man, it was brilliant. They gave us the space. They were giving the space for free. You just give them the concept,
Yes.
tell them what you're trying to do, and the space is yours.
Yes.
We just at that hall, Maze, on a Thursday.
How many people were there?
It was, there were so many people. And then now, you know, the other thing, you know, this is one thing I always tell people. For any business idea, even if you have the money, start small. Start as if you don't have the money. And I thank God we didn't have the money. Because that first night, guess what we forgot? Of all things, we forgot wristbands.
Or for people who are walking in.
Yeah, wristbands. You guys now imagine if we had budget.
So you couldn't verify.
Hey, now, and then M-Pesa was my number. So I'm on stage, and then the chick, my friend Joy Mutua, is at the nini. She's trying to call me. She's telling me,
Nani's,
brother, we are Melipa. So Amuko, guys, welcome to BYSS. And Amuko trying to forward the payment messages. Man, it was crazy. But the one thing I can never forget today, with any event I do, is wristbands.
That's the first thing.
I can never forget a wristband. So it's good to make those mistakes with a small event because all of us see the big things and we want that. But start small. There's a lot of lessons that not even going to the best business school can teach you. Because I don't think anywhere I'd have gone that have talked to me about
that I've told you
wristbands.
specifically about wristbands.
You know, so the show sold out, and then guys were like, "Oh, we couldn't get in; it was too full. Please do another show." Okay, and then an opportunity came to go to Brazil
With
not
show.
with, because you said so. Something
right.
else now on the side.
Right.
So this is another crazy story. So my friend, we did a ride from Nairobi to Cape Town and back with a group of riders. And we were trying to raise money for a foundation. It was a church thing. So there was this Mzungu guy called Florian who had done Nairobi essay before. So what I was trying to get from him was, you know, just logistics. And then he was doing a trip from Nairobi to Brazil by road on a car, 7 months. And what he needed was help marketing the event. So I helped him to get like media interviews and those kind of things. And then now, so he was like, guess what? Ethiopian have come on board as a sponsor and they're giving me tickets for every leg. So how Florian, hey, Germans, you guys, I've never seen such detailed spreadsheets. So how he had planned is that at every stage, someone would join him from somewhere. So like there are guys who drove with him from Nairobi to Addis.
Right.
Then they'd take a flight back. Then some
the
guys
next day
would
goes with him. Right.
some guy would fly into Addis, go with him all the way, say to
What's
Oman.
the route from Nairobi to Brazil
Crazy.
by road?
Like, so he went Ethiopia all the way,
Goes up,
put to Djibouti, I think, put the car on a ferry, crossed into Dubai. From Dubai, did the, you know, all those crazy Eastern countries, all the way to Russia,
Then
Vladivostok or wherever. Then put the car on a ferry to Japan. Then Japan again toured, put the car on a ferry to Los Angeles. Then from Los Angeles down to.
he went right.
He went the long way.
He went the long way.
He went the long way, which is
Because
crazy.
in my head I was, of course you go.
Oh no! He went the long way. So
Yeah.
it was a 7-month
Right.
trip.
Okay.
So I was helping him I helped him to get the marketing.
Right.
He was able to get a full page on the Gazette. So he'd write
And
about
those
his
days
journey.
the was still
Like, so now I'm in here. So he was like, dude, tell me which part of this trip you'd like to join. Because you, of all people, deserve one of these tickets. So I'd never been to South America. So the plan was for us to meet in Peru. So I got a free ticket to go to Peru. Now, when time for leaving was here, I didn't have money. Hey, but kuna demand. Watu wanasema tufanye back by public demand. Brother, tengeneza poster. Sai. So we did BYSS again, back by public demand.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to raise some pocket money to go to South
to-
America.
Do you remember how much your first show made, BYSS?
Honestly, I can't.
You can. How did you? Okay. Do you remember how you split the money, or how you distribute the money, what you did with it?
We had good times. We paid for the additional things, paid everyone, and whatever was left was just...
That was it.
Yeah, it was, like I said, I didn't come from a business perspective. It's not something like BYSS is not something like I had a business plan for. It's not like a projection.
Has it ever been that for you?
No.
Even to this day?
Even to this day.
It's just a fun thing you do.
It's
you
a
enjoy.
fun thing we do. At some point, we had started growing and getting a lot of traction. And, in retrospect, I invested too much in wanting to be a bigger brand, bigger numbers. So like we would get sponsorships, but then I'd invest so much back in the show. I wish I invested back in self and the team members with the gift of retrospect, because now, we're looking for bigger venues, bigger screens. We invested heavily in the experience. And then that's when COVID happened, I was like, what's all this for? It's a small experience. It's literally like a house party. It's like a game night. It's a great experience we build with the audience. It's been also a very healing space for us. It's a place we come and laugh, we laugh. Even the audience, and the thing with improv is life. Life is improv. We didn't practice this conversation. We're basically improvising as we move along.
Right.
Your day is not going exactly how you imagined it would. So life happens in improv. We're always improvising, but somehow our brain safety always wants us to have, things planned and...
Right.
Yeah, so generally the experience was... it's become that for me. It's become more of my gift to the people of Nairobi. It's become like Nairobi's little secret.
Has that sort of acceptance come even as a result with where you're at now with life? Like what you're saying in terms of the meditation and the finding peace and accepting things for what they are, not necessarily failures, and it's lessons. And if it happens, good. If it doesn't happen. And was there a time in your life, I know you've talked about being stressed, was there a time in your life where you'd have looked at and been frustrated with the commercial opportunities you may have felt you've left on the table for BYSS? Yeah,
I think so. But also, dude, I think corporate Kenya is it's just toxic. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... And I think the thing with corporate sponsors is that they don't see that this is a mutual benefit thing. They always look at it like they're doing us a big favor. And also, Poji spoke about how corporate sponsors now want to be the creators. That's not your core business. Let the creator be the creator. What you need to do is to facilitate that. Yes. Because when they do well, you also shine. It's your brand on the poster. It's your brand on the poster. But if you're trying to finger the guy. I've had some ridiculous meetings where guys will tell you, we have a budget for billboards for how many millions. So we'll give you 10 billboards. How are billboards paying my bills? In fact, you're creating more problems for me because, what you're creating is a perception that I have so much money, but yet you have not paid me anything. My face is on a billboard, but in terms of the account, there's nothing reflecting. Yeah. So I've become very, I'm not saying corporate sponsors are bad. There are a few who are great.
Okay. My final question would be BYSS. Because it's a big team. The creators in and of themselves. You're not few. Have you ever, and I guess being the sort of founder, executive producer, have you ever had uncomfortable discussions around money with regard to BYSS?
All the time. Yeah. We've had this discussion sometimes. But the best thing I think about BYSS is that it's family. Even our suppliers are people we've worked with right from the beginning, or we've worked for many years. In terms of even like the production team that I work with, spreadsheets are open for everyone to see. So if I say there's no money, it's not like it's not like we can all see it. There was a time a few of the cast members like Yafesi was also part of the planning team, and would always go through numbers. So it's a very I try to keep it as fair and as open as possible. Right. Yeah, because again, like I said, this is something we do mostly for passion. I know people have reached out to me and said, I was going through a very bad time, was thinking of taking very drastic decisions. But coming for BYSS restored my faith in just laughter, and I see a reason to live another day. And I've gotten those kind of messages, not once, not twice. So I realized the role that it plays. And I think for me, I want BYSS to be remembered as that gift that we gifted ourselves, because it's, like I said, BYSS is improv. I don't know if you've been.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's an experience we build together with the audience. Give us a name, tell us how you're doing. And then so it's a great experience that we build together. For me, that's that healing aspect will keep people coming, and I think I'm just grateful for what it has become.
Yeah. So you've decided with the fact that this is not like a commercial gold mine that we're going to whatever, and it's fine with what it is.
I'm okay with it, 100%.
So I guess having understood what the role that BYSS played in your life or plays in your life, so what then did you do for money? Other than, because it gave you the pocket money to go to Peru and enjoy yourself and come back. But how then do you survive for the rest of
No,
of
I
your
mean,
life?
so just for context, the new, how I see BYSS now with the new eyes is through, this is post-pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, it was my full-time job.
Yes.
Yeah, Saturday, the show is done. Monday, I'm on reports, sending to corporate sponsors. This is what we were able to achieve. So that time, it was my full-time job. Now it's very different. Now also, it's become like a thing I do to disconnect from beekeeping.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can never disconnect from beekeeping, but, it's the thing I do. All of us have day jobs.
Right.
Every cast member has a day job. Justo is in insurance. Mugash is in arts. Yafesi is a writer. June is a lawyer. Patricia is Patricia.
Yeah.
Who else? K1 is a DJ. So we all have, so we just meet on stage. And sometimes we actually just meet 30 minutes before the show.
And you get it done.
Yeah, so sometimes I'll just take my time off to write the segments. So it's become that. For me, personally, I find that it feeds my soul so much that when I've had tough times, that I'll come and we'll just laugh. And even now, if you ask me what were some of the funny things about Saturday, because we just had the show on Saturday, I may not be able to remember. Yeah. So until pandemic, I was exclusively doing BYSS and corporate MC work.
That's what kept you going.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of corporate work. Every week, I think I had a corporate gig. Before then, I don't think there was anyone who had labeled themselves as a corporate MC. So one day I did something silly, just out of an idea, just like I said, I don't overthink things.
Yes.
I just had an idea, like, if I did a post pushing myself as a corporate MC, what would happen? Bro, best decision I made at the time. So it was just a funny picture of me just chilling, and then I was like, Natafta Kazi MC or something like that. I'll find it. I mean, I can't remember. It was just like a funny thing. I mean, the quote of the time, like equivalent of what Sema Ikutoke is now.
Right.
Yeah, I did. In line with that, I created an MC poster. And, I started working with the Safaricoms, with the NCBAs, with the, big corporates, Citibank. And that became like, I think I was doing a gig every week.
And what was the money like at that time for corporate MCing?
Oh.
Or how much would you be average?
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Me, so long as there's a job,
yes,
leave no money on the table. So it would range. Some guys would pay me 50K. I'd just where I'd say, okay, this guy needs me for maybe 1 hour. And it's a Wednesday afternoon, I can take that 50K. But there were some that paid me 300. So it really
depends on the scope.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really depends on the scope of work.
Right.
Some people would give you, like, there was a time I did Safaricom for they gave me Jobo every week for 8 weeks. Yeah, different towns. So but I also really enjoyed. It was great for building my network. The best thing about being an MC is that it makes you meet people who normally, to meet them, would take you
hoops. Yes, to be able to get to them.
I remember meeting Bob Collymore and, and I got, now you become, like, they sort of know you, like, Jason, how are you?
Right.
Yeah, those opportunities. And then some might be like, but then, we usually have this show called BYSS,
Try and plug it in there.
But, so my main job, actually, I would say, was the MCing, full-time corporate MC work. And then now because BYSS is every other month. It's not every month. We skip a month. We
So
only
you're
do
doing six in
shows a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do 7 when we do the In the Wild edition.
Right.
Yeah. So when COVID happened, literally all my sources of income dried up at once because I didn't realize until that point that for Jason to make money, people had to gather. Yeah. So it was like, whoa, what just happened?
And it was overnight like that. As overnight as COVID happened,
Yes.
your money dried up immediately. All your income revenue sources. What was that realization like? I mean,
Crazy.
I think it was March. It must have been March, like
was March
20th or
13th.
something. March. And up until this point, had your because up at this point you've said your money habits were, whatever. Have they changed at this point? Do you have savings? Do you have anything? So March 13th hits you.
Yeah. There's something about money. Money is an illusion. When you make money, it sort of gives you the perception that this is easy to do. It's easy to make because you're so used to it coming in. Especially like in the kind of work that I was doing. The thing I didn't realize about my corporate MC job is you feel this need to always be at events that are happening. You always feel like you're trying to network, which costs a lot of money. You want to go to the not big clubs, but you want to hang out at places where potential clients would be, which is like the kind of events I'm talking about.
Yes.
You've been told, by the marketing manager for which company is gonna be there. So you spend,
you go spend money to be there to talk to
be
this
there
person.
just to have a one-on-one conversation with these people. So I mean, and also honestly, I used to be so hard on myself for this, but honestly, who would have seen the pandemic coming?
Yeah, I mean nobody.
Nobody would have seen this happening. Nobody. I don't think even with the best fortune teller or whatever, we'd have seen it happening exactly as it happened.
Yes.
But also, that became my biggest blessing. It became my biggest blessing, and that's how I got into beekeeping. At the time, it was very tough. Things were like, in a few months, you find now you're having to negotiate with a landlord, somebody who you could pay quarterly. In fact, the only reason he's giving you grace is because it's a pandemic, but he remembers you are a nice guy. We never ever cosaned over rent. You'd pay me quarterly, you'd pay me well in advance, so, they'd extend grace. But, also what's happening on the other side is that you're accumulating debt. So in a few months, it was not sustainable. But, we always kept, like Poji was saying, it's just this Sato. By next Sato gigs will be back. Then a month, Tisha's like, well, bro, he's not coming back. So that's how I got into beekeeping. It was for me. It was actually a spiritual experience.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the episode, when you're talking about the community your mom built, you talked about moving back.
Yeah.
So do things get tough to the point where you're like, I can't stay here anymore. I cannot afford to be here anymore.
I had to move to
Shags.
But you see, in my shags, what I had was land, but no building. Which now meant I had
it was just like no, like you say no building, you mean no
nothing.
Building
It's just a shamba. All I had is beacons.
Yes. And at this point in time, your bank balance is.
In fact, I'm in so much debt.
Yes.
Yeah, because now you owe people money. So I found myself in Nyahururu.
How much debt did you accumulate before you said, I'm done? I need to move.
I can't remember if it was a figure. It was more of there's no money coming in, and anything that now I'm getting, it's turning into a debt. So sometimes it's not like you owe at 50 million. It just means like for you maybe to get a cab from here to Tao, it means you've added another debt of, even if it's a 5 sock.
Yes, but it's another.
It's another. So
that
then
you don't have.
Then you realize, this can't work. So when I discovered beekeeping, I poured myself wholly into it, and now I was like, let me go try it in Nyahururu. Yeah.
By my math of how old you said your daughter is, she would be either being born at this time or
she was 1.
She was 1 at this time. So with that experience sort of being put together, what was that like? I mean, being now as a father, assuming it's a serious relationship at that point in time. Yeah.
I have to say that my daughter has an amazing mom. Amazing, and parenting with her has been like the biggest blessing. So she had to stay with a child. Luckily, she got a job at that time.
In this period,
she got a job. So I had to figure things out. So, and I didn't tell you how I started beekeeping.
No, we've not. Yeah.
It was crazy. It was just an idea that I had. So what happened is one of these nights, now maybe we're at month number 6, month
Before
number
you've
4.
moved.
Before I've moved. One of those nights, like in the middle of high stress, like breaking point. I remember going to bed and I had this dream. I tell people this story and they think it's crazy, but it's a true story. And in my dream, a bee actually appeared to me, hovering at about this height. And
When you're seated or standing?
I was standing.
Okay.
I was standing, and what it said is, Jason, don't worry, have no fear. If you take care of us, we'll take care of you.
The bee says that to you.
Yeah. And then it flew away. But I always put a disclaimer to this dream. It wasn't like a bright light, or it was easily a dream I could have ignored. I could have easily ignored it. It was just like, a bee appeared. No, it wasn't like
a clear, crystal clear thing.
It wasn't like an angel appear, rise up. No. It was just, really, it was a dream I could have chosen to ignore. But what that made me think of in the morning was like, wait a minute. Right now, people are struggling with COVID. People are having homa. And I was like, maybe selling honey could be a great idea. So immediately that morning, what I did is I rushed to supermarkets, just checking the price of honey. I'd never, up until this point,
you had never bothered.
I'd never known anything about beekeeping, never known anything about honey, never known, like, I've always been a city boy. I know nothing about farming. So when I went and checked the prices, then I went to I found somewhere they sell honey in bulk, and I reached out because I had no money. I reached out to a group, a WhatsApp group of close friends. I was like, hey guys, I need money. I mean, I have this simple business idea. I'd like to just try it out. And someone sent me 12,000. And with the 12,000, what I did, I bought honey jars. I bought honey, repackaged, and that day I went home with 40K.
That day?
That same day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just put on my socials, hey,
I'm selling.
I have good honey available. No label, not just honey in a jar. Yeah. I just put a picture.
Yeah.
So guys bought honey. But then now also, the more I was selling, people were asking very
So you just
questions.
kept repeating the cycle.
Yeah.
Just go wholesale, get the jars, post.
For now, it's
repeat.
Just, it's survival.
Rinse, wash, repeat.
Hii ni pesa ya unga for the day.
Literally.
Na diaper, na, but you see also in the 40K, that's gross. I still have to
pay back. I still
have to pay back. I still have to pay for jars. I still have to. So maybe my margin is about maybe say 6K or 7K, because now reinvest.
Yes.
Buy more jars, and I've always been a huge love of bikes. So luckily I had a nice fancy bike. So I'd put the honey in rucksacks and I'd zunguka this Nairobi.
You doing the deliveries.
I'm everything. Marketing, delivery.
CEO, everything.
Everything.
Yes.
So, but then now people used to start asking me questions. Many questions. Hey, hii mbona hii asali na taste different?
Yes.
Mbona hii color ni different na ile ingine? Ile asali leta last time ilikuwa poa. Hii I did not tell guys. Asali iko poa. So what that did is that I realized I have to get some learning in terms of honey, and of course I tried to Google. So I came across a one-day training. One of the places one of the beekeeping shops, I saw they have a one-day training, and when I went is when I met a guy who changed my life. The training was in Yatta, Machakos County.
I'm trying to figure out where that is.
So you go Thika Road, then you Shika Garissa, and I went with so now by this time, I've sold my fancy bike, the boom boom, for like one with like a box at the back, 100cc Yamaha.
Yeah.
You guy, I went to that bike all the way to Yatta. I was rained on that day. I can never forget. But I'm so glad I took that trip. Because I met this guy called Mr. Nganga. He was a guy who was doing our training. And this guy was like a bee whisperer, like for real. He's worked with bees now, I'd say 26 years. Because at the time it was about 21 years. Sunday to Sunday. Like, hii ndio kazi yangu nafanyaga daily. The guy, and he was like, okay, guys, so now, you do the theory part, and then now you go to the beehives. And the bees were so crazy, but this guy was just so calm. Then he asked us, do you guys want to see the queen? We're like, yes. You must always talk to your bees, please. But then, which is true, because bees recognize your face and your voice and your scent. You're like, hello, madam. Like he just said, hello, madam. Niko na wageni hapa. Wanataka kukusalimia. Kuja uwasalimie. And in less than a second, he was like, guys, gather around. Here is the queen. And now, for context, it's not easy to see because especially in a strong colony, they really cover her up.
Yeah.
And here's the queen. Can you see? And then he works without gloves.
Wow.
So I was like, hey, I want to be like Mr. Nganga. But also just the learning about bees. Bees are so incredible. Just how they operate as a unit. There are many, but we call it a hive mind. They are one thing. Everything they do is for the benefit of all of them. So a bee will not go kula, then come back and say,
be like,
hey, uko inje, hey, ni kubaya. Everything they do is for the benefit of the colony.
Right.
So now when I started learning about beekeeping, now the bee became more interesting to me than the actual honey. So then I was like, where can I get more learning about this? I went to the National Beekeeping Institute. I did a short course there.
I didn't even know there's
a National Beekeeping Institute. So now at this point, I'm saying, guys, I'm the beekeeping expert. Call me for Jobo. So now people started calling me for consultation with almost zero experience. But Mr. Nganga was a good man. And another guy called Duncan who helped me to install my first hives. These guys were always like a phone call away. I'd be like, hey, Mr. Nganga, niko hapa na client. Ameniuliza nini message. Hebu niambie. Hiyo sio shida, wewe mwambie. Ama fanya hivi na hivi na hivi
So
na
at the
hivi.
time you're doing these consultations, you're not fully baked yet.
See? I have close to zero experience.
Yeah.
I'm just telling customers, don't worry, I got this.
How many people are trying to, I guess, get into the beekeeping business?
So many. I remember, I think Ivy was here and she told you we shot an episode.
Yes.
Yeah. When I looked at that episode now, I'm like, wow. And I was so green in this thing. But let me tell you, there's nothing like believing in something so much. Like, oh man, it was just the best thing. Like, I really pushed myself. I worked for close to nothing, but it's because I was so curious to learn. But what that did
But
for
you're
me,
still doing that cycle of...
now I've watched Kidogo because I can't be everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah. So now what happened? At some point now when I found myself in Nyahururu, now my neighbors have come together. We've, put some money together. They've built for me a nice Mabati house. This house had no network. So I have no network, I have no steam, I have no Maji. So now when I tell my boys, Tonareni kesho, it's just me and my thoughts. Yeah. But what that did for me, because now also the country had been closed, is that it gave me access to now a group of farmers, and we were able to do, and they were also invested in this beekeeping. So I got a few beehives, and we were able now to focus on this thing every day, going to the beehives. So what this was doing for me is that it was making me like a good learner, understanding how farmers operate, understanding how farmers think, really brought me in touch firsthand with poverty. Seeing how farmers live hand to hand, how most people will buy credit of 5 bob and this is the reality of a lot of youth across the country. They'll buy credo for 5 bob, just say, nipike. People just don't have access to opportunities. And that really was the best foundation that I needed for my beekeeping journey. Because now I'm not looking at this from a middle-class, privileged perspective. I'm looking at it because I've lived that life. I remember there was once, I had not augured for like 3-4 days. And then it rained.
When you were living in...
Yeah, in that Mabati shack. I augured in the rain. One of the best showers I've ever taken. Just outside, and then it's like 3 a.m.
So wait, so you're sleeping, you hear rain.
It's raining.
You're like, I haven't showered for 3 days. Maybe go out and get a shower.
But luckily the Karini had a nice fence. I asked Mama there, oh God, in the rain. It was the best shower I've had in a long time. But see, those tough situations were at the time, and they were not funny, but now with the gift of retrospect, was the best learning that I could have Like, and I realize people are not poor because they choose to be poor. It's just circumstances that force them to be like that. You see farmers who can barely afford school fees. I've seen farmers taking maize to go to a school. So they are giving the school in exchange for them to allow their child to attend school. I have seen farmers cut down trees not because they don't know about global warming. Of course, they know all this big corporate wars. They know kata miti. But this guy has a child to take to school next week. So what does he do? Niko na mti fulani kwa shamba. Kata, tengeneza makaa. Because makaa will move really fast. That's a reality. But I've also seen farmers that, like once I gifted a farmer, and I tell this story all the time, I gifted a farmer a beehive. And the very next day, without even me asking him, he was carrying a tree seedling to go and plant. You see, this now made me more invested in like understanding that we are facing a real crisis, and most of us in the urban cities, we are living in a bubble. We don't understand that there are people who are actually going hungry. There are farmers who cannot afford to do farm inputs. They can barely afford fertilizer. For us, we think, how is someone be unable to buy fertilizer for 2-3 Gs? Now, when the fertilizer is fixed at 7 Gs, honestly, that person can't afford. I've seen farmers, poor communities rallying together just to pay for an opportunity. And it could be the simplest for a guy to go to a college, like maybe in a nearest rural town. They literally can't afford that type of stuff. So it really shaped how I think. It really shaped how I look at farmers. It really shaped how I look at food. Like, I question things like, why would a country like Kenya have so much food to export, and yet we have a population that can barely put food on a table? How are some kids not even able to have a desk? It's a simple thing about dignity. A kid is sitting on the floor. On the floor. Can you imagine if you had to be in class under a tree, and that same kid is struggling and fighting for the same opportunities with someone who's picked by a school bus every morning, because KCSE doesn't care about your background. Did you get the
grades that were required for whatever?
Did you get the grades and some people, life just locks them out just like that. And that's why even now I've made it like a personal thing where, especially like June 25th, I was on the streets with the young, and I realized most people there were very young people. And I realized that my role that I need to play is to empower young people, mostly with skills that can enable them to feed themselves, to take care of their families. I like when I go to places like recently when I went to Kitale, and the client was kind enough to pay for my air ticket to fly to Kitale. And what I tell my students is like, listen, I also have done this beekeeping for a very short time, but if you're committed to this, even you can get opportunities to kupanda ndege. For them, it's a far-fetched idea. But I tell them, start with your community. What I've given you now is the skills that if you build on them, granted, I can't teach you the entire beekeeping in 3 days, but I'll give you the basics of what you would need to, say, consult for a neighbor, check beehive, charge even 500 for checking the beehives or whatever. Teach what you know. You can be able to charge even if it's 200 or whatever, but these skills that I'm giving you, one, no one will ever be able to take them away from you. And two, if you're heavily invested in it, it can actually be a gateway to something bigger for you. It can be what makes you... there are guys in Shags who've never left the town. Yeah, a guy is in a rural town somewhere like in Shags, has never left. And yet we think, mbona msee haezi enda online at how?
It doesn't even know.
It doesn't.
It's ignorant to.
We look at things very. Like, I see people building apps for farmers that need bundles. Which farmers are you building these apps for? So we look at things from a very privileged perspective. And what my experience, like living in that tin shack in Nyahururu, did for me. How long
did you live there?
It was months. First, I was renting a room.
And a funny question is, so how often did you shower when you were living there?
You guy. First of all, you're so tired when you come home. I was fed by my neighbors every day.
Throughout for this month that you were there.
I would always be invited for dinner. One of my best friends, a guy who is like, oh man, I really thank God for this guy. He's my bro for life. He's a guy who's grown up in Shags. You know, we are similar age, so we also have a lot to talk about life. And you realize we all want the same things. We all want our kids to be happy. We want to have a future. So, you know, it was so good. But sometimes we'd like have this ugali with no mboga, and then we have to share with, he has like 6 daughters. Then there's his wife, you know, so it's like...
You know, I've just realized that even based on what you're saying, even my question is very middle classy. With fact that I'm asking how many times
Organing was not like...
showering is not...
It's not a priority.
It's not a thing,
It wasn't a priority. But I mean, I'd shower maybe once every other day.
Yeah.
Because even that showering, now in my plot, they had to jenga for me a well. So we spent like a week just chimbing all the way to like 40 feet. You know, and it's the guys who've just come to help you.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys, in my head, I'd be like, you guys don't have anything to do. Like, the fact that you can chat. Because now, again, this is the goodwill now my mom
that your mom had built in the community.
Had invested in the community. So it was like, so chotai or guying means you go to the well.
I've done that. I used to enjoy that in Shang.
Well, because I didn't have that thing for
They were in there.
So I just take like just chop a passport.
And then you move.
And you move. Because also, where are you going the next day? You're just...
Mentally? How have you reconciled your reality at this point in time? Because like I've said, you've come from a place where you're being paid as a corporate MC up to 300, 500, for gigs. You've just gotten your daughter. Yes, your partner's taking care of her and doing a fantastic job at it. But mentally, how do you reconcile with who you are at that point in time, living in that tin house?
I think it was needed. What I realized that, and remember I told you I have no network.
Yes.
I have no network and
no
in the Yeah, so what that forced me to do is that I had to sit down with my thoughts. I had to call myself out on my own bullshit. I realized, one, I'd been misusing money. I didn't realize the value of money. 2, that I'm not immune to things going south. 3, also that if things went south, it's a bad situation economically, but in terms of life experiences, it's a great experience. It wasn't like, I don't know how to put it. Like, we had bashes in the village. You know,
it wasn't that a bad time.
It wasn't bad times, honestly. I used to share my daily updates on social media every day. And people would see how, people would welcome me for chai. Everybody wants to feed you. Now you're part of a community. The chief is asking your opinion on certain things. So I was like, wow, this is also, I'm being involved in something that, so to speak, money cannot buy.
Yes.
So it also made me realize some of those other things. So you'll find like now I'm involved a lot in the communities I'm in. Any community I go to, I'll always invite my neighbors to come and learn about beekeeping. I open up my doors to people because that is a grace that was extended to me as well. And like I said, anything that happens to never ever imagine, even for a second, that anything that has happened to another human being cannot happen to you. Yeah. The fact that you're human, it can happen to you. And we've seen people who've saved all their life, become so rich, and then they lose all their money to something like cancer. It's a reality. So I guess what you need is, what I always need to refresh, which this experience taught me, is my perspective of life, my perception of life, my perception of self. Does my value now... Does it mean that now you're
less of a person?
You're less of a person because I don't have money. Now I treat everybody. I mean, not that I didn't used to.
You're a lot more conscious about.
I'm a lot more. I'll always say hi to the person I find at the gate. How are you? How was your day? How is life? Even like today when I got off the Uber, I told the guy, Maze, thanks so much. Maze na hustle yako ijipe. And the guy was like, you're so grateful. I was like, yeah, thank you, man. And for you too. I understand. I understand hardship in a very intimate way.
Yeah.
I understand.
I like that description.
Yeah, I understand what it is. I understand what it is to live purely on the grace of other people. And I guess as a human being, it's important that you also extend that grace to other people. I'm not saying be generous with your money, that when you get money that you... But if someone is going through a problem, one, I always tell people, like, you have what it takes to get yourself out of any situation. It's just your mental... You just need to work on your mind.
To change your perspective.
Okay.
So, I guess as we wrap up, because we've talked about so much, and I think your story has been very interesting, if nothing else, right? if you can break down for us the last 5 years and the transition from that tin house and starting your beekeeping journey to where it is now as an actual business that you're making revenue from and making money from. If you were to break down the three most important things that happen in chronological order, financially speaking, that allowed you to make money, the three things that happened that allowed you to make money in your journey to where you are now.
One, love your job. If you love your job, everything else becomes easy. But also, two, invest in your craft. Invest. Like, if it's for you, for example, invest everything in becoming a better interviewer. How do you get the best out of the people you talk to? How do you get stories? How do you identify good stories? Because it's easy to go to the people who are being seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, it's just continuously investing in your craft. Your craft can open the craziest doors for you. And I'll keep saying this. And that's why you'll find your watchman will always ask you for money sometimes because, that's an employment thing. But the guy who comes to fix your maji or repair stuff for you, they'll never ask you for money. Yeah. Some of the guys sleeps, he wakes up, Alan is calling you, hey, you only 2,000, So for me, for example, now I say this, so long as there are bees in this world, so long as there's honey, I may not be a billionaire, but I won't be hungry. I won't. Yeah. And now that's why I even went back to study how to become a honey sommelier, to understand about honey, to understand. And my trainer told me I'm actually the second person in Africa to do this. And it's something I'm committed to seeing right to the end. I want to be able to work with chefs. I want to be able to work with kids, to inspire them to join apiculture. It's so important because we are facing a serious crisis. You saw this thing that was posted the other day that Kenya has one of the least forest covers of, I think, 5%. Like, it's so crazy. We are below Namibia. Namibia, being like it's a desert country. And we don't even have the cover that they have. All of us need to be involved because this thing is going to affect all of us terribly. But anyway, invest in your craft. Invest in your craft. Invest in relationships. And I'm not saying just go party in the name of investing. No. Invest in good relationships. Help people. And me, how I help people is by teaching. When I teach beekeeping, actually the game changer for me in terms of beekeeping was a decision to teach. And the one thing I tell my students when they come to my class, I tell them, listen, I don't know everything. But one thing I can promise you is that any question you ask me, if I don't know, even if it's a week from now, I'll get back to you with the answer. And that has made me an even better beekeeper. And just investing in the craft has opened the most insane doors for me. And I didn't go looking for them. Those opportunities came looking for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were to, I like the principles you've given and the three principles you've given. In terms of money events or financial events, what are three financial events that have happened that lead you to where you are now?
I think losing my job at KQ, starting BYSS, it was until I worked with someone like Mudhoni, Mudhoni DQ, when she was starting blankets, I remember sitting with her at Oilibia here in Westlands. You're like, I have this idea for a gig. I don't know how to call it wine and cheese. And it was I have to give Mudhoni a shout out because I was the first MC for blankets. And the first DJ. I used to MC for blankets for about, I think, a year. And watching my friend start a random idea that we had a meeting over here at Oilibia. The thing is, any idea, so long as you invest time in it, can grow. I swear if you start a church even today that worships plastic and you're consistent with it, you will have followers. Yeah, anything you start, so long as you're consistent with it, I don't believe in having a plan B. It means you're not doing plan A well. If plan A is not working, move to another plan A. But have stick to plan A. Figure out how it has to work. Be willing to go through the tough times because tough times will teach you great lessons. So I guess losing my job, losing also BYSS and the corporate MC work taught me far more lessons than any success I've ever had. has ever taught me.
Okay.
You learn a lot more from your
From
failures.
misses. Okay.
And I'm not glorifying
Failure,
problems
or
and failure because now I'm very keen and
Yeah.
I'm very intentional about wanting to be wealthy. And it's something I'm working on now. I've learned my lessons. Now it's time to make money.
Are you making more money now than you did when you were MCing and BYSS?
Maybe not, but I'm more cautious with my money now.
You have better money habits.
I have better money habits.
Okay.
I have better money habits. I invest more in my skills. I do things I love because when you do things out of passion, somehow money follows you. So like one of the things I'm doing now very intentionally, I've invested heavily in is my photography. Something that I left, remember when you're talking about going to film school and, I left those 20 years ago. But now I'm documenting a lot of work that traditional beekeepers are doing because we're losing this knowledge. I'm a licensed drone pilot as well, thanks to a friend who offered me a scholarship. But you see, you have to put yourself out there for people to want to work with. I've also seen people through my consultancy, people have started big businesses in apiculture. Yesterday I shared about a friend of mine who was a guy who's now become my friend, like my small bro. We started his business with 5 beehives, and now he has some of the best honey out of Makueni, and they're called A&Bs. My guy, watching that start from scratch, watching Mudhoni start that from scratch, just seeing someone committed, and those just blankets was every month. Even this guy in Makueni used to tell me, I can't afford to pay your full rates now, but trust me, I'll keep you, and just come to my farm every week. And this guy, he has a full-time job, he's an engineer, but every Friday, without fail, he's in his car going home to Makueni because he's also invested in his beekeeping heavily. So don't do these things of, hey, let me try in case this photography doesn't work. So you're just like a goalkeeper like this. You're not really investing in one thing that you truly believe. If you truly believe in anything, in something, Maze, just dive in. It will work out.
Last thing. So what are the commercial financials in the beekeeping space? Like what do they look like?
Let me tell you.
You gave me a very interesting start when we started this.
Yeah. There's a lot of money to be made. A lot. Honey and cocaine have the same problem. Very short supply, high demand. In Kenya, we are only meeting 20% of demand. Which means there's an 80% market share that's not being tapped. It's being met by 2 things, ukarabati and importation. So imagine, like, I don't know what else, like, and then the other thing people don't know, the advantages of doing, for example, honey. One, honey is the cheapest of all bee products. There's another 5 or so products which are high value. And honey, have very long shelf life, does not need refrigeration. It doesn't, they found a 3,000-year-old honey in one of the tombs in Egypt, and apparently it was still in good condition. That's why our forefathers used honey to preserve food. Honey and gold have never dropped in value. Yeah, the price, if you look at the graphs, have always gone. So right now, in fact, part of the reason I'm in Kilifi is because if you look at the environment, when you taste honey, you're tasting a place. You look at, like, my place in Kilifi, I have a lot of neem trees. I have a lot of, there's baobab trees. There's mangroves not so far. There's also moringa trees, which grows like weeds. So when you taste the honey from there, you're actually tasting all the goodness of those trees. So my goal is to produce honey that I'll be able to sell. I'm not saying that's the driving factor, but I'm really going to produce some of the most premium honey. You've heard of, like, the mad honey from Nepal?
Yes.
Which makes people hallucinate. You buy that for $450 for half a kilo. We have Sidir honey in the Middle East, which goes for about $1,000 per kilo. And yet here, people are still arguing with you because you want to sell them honey for $1,500 a jar. I'm going to invest in my bees. I spend my time with my bees. I meditate with them. I talk to them. I bembeleza them. But that honey, be ready to pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's money to be made.
There's a lot of money to be made. But you have to invest a lot. You see, like now the guy I'm telling you about in Makweni, we started that journey. The first beehive we installed in Feb 2023. This is 2025.
Which cost how much?
So if you look at it, it's the cost of installation is about 10,000 shillings a hive. I'm not saying just the box. You know, people ask you about the box.
Yes.
They don't understand that there's the stand, there's the labor, there's the kokoto, there's the simiti, there's the paying somebody to. So if you look at it, it comes about 10,000 shillings per hive. But you see, now is when that farm has started producing honey. It takes a lot of patience.
Oh, so it's taken 2
Yes.
years.
Yes. Most people assume beekeeping, you just put a box at the corner and then bees will come and then you'll be getting a lot of honey. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to build. You know, when you see a box, each colony has a personality. It's like having cows. Yeah, it's like there are cows who you can milk them even without fungaing them.
Yes, then
there are others which are just crazy. It's the same thing with bees. Like I have a colony we call KDF at my Moranga apiary. Those guys are from a mile away. They're already coming to chapa you, know. But then in the same farm, I also have some that I can open shirtless. Yeah, they're very calm, so by the time you get to know those beehives, those bee colonies individually, and also it's also learning your environment, cycles, what flower is flowering when, because then that affects the type of honey that you have. When you see a certain flower has flowered and it's dead now, then you know possibly there's some honey. In the first year, you'll miss a lot of that because when bees make honey, they're not making it for you. They're making it for themselves. They're literally storing for a rainy day because when it's raining, they don't leave the hive. They consume what they have already made. So you're also learning you're not just learning about the bees, you're also learning about your particular environment. So I find from experience, year 2, year 3 is where now you'll actually have an idea of what you're doing. Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's no quick money.
There's no quick money, yeah. We have to have a part 2 because I have so many questions just about that specific industry and how you're navigating all of this from Kilifi, what living in Kilifi is like. So we have to have a part 2 at some point. The next time you're back in Nairobi and hear how
come
this
to Kilifi, come see what I'm doing.
Collins, budget.
Please come to Kilifi. Actually, let's shoot an episode at my apiary.
Yeah, there we go. We've
come and also for FX Pesa and for all corporate sponsors, please consider supporting beekeeping initiatives. Yeah. Because what you're doing is that you're not needing a lot of space, you're not needing a lot of capital. And, you're producing a product that has a very long shelf life. It's not like a potato. When you throw a potato from the soil or a tomato, once you've tuned it, the value you have... With honey, it's not the case. Yeah. You're imparting skills on young people who then they can make into money. So I really want, even small businesses, even for you as financially incorrect, with as little as 200, 100,000, you can really support a nice initiative in a community, and I'll be happy to help you with this. There's a lot of opportunity. There's enough for all of us. Even if all of us became beekeepers, we can't satisfy the market. Because good quality honey, once you've tasted good quality honey, your life is never the same again. It's like, and that's why all the holy books talk about bees and honey. It's like the goodness of life. Next time I'll come with honey. I'll come with honey and we'll do the tasting.
Milk and honey. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
much for giving us
this
opportunity. Please go and check out Jason on his social pages. And I'm telling you, we're going to have a part 2. We'll finish this up and we'll see you guys next week for next week's episode, next Friday on Financially Incorrect.